Hi, good afternoon. My name is Neelam Singh. I'm a registered dietitian as well as instructor for this session. This session will provide an in-depth understanding of sodium and its effect on the heart health. So let's review the outline for this session. Today, today we will be focusing on the effect of sodium on heart health. And during this session, I'll be discussing the role of sodium in heart health and how excessive sodium intake can have negative effects on our cardiovascular system. I will also be covering the recommended daily limit of sodium and common sources of sodium in our diet. We will also be exploring the foods that should be limited or included in a heart-healthy diet and discussing label lingos and tips for reading sodium labels to make informed food choices. So how does too much sodium affect heart health? Sodium attracts water, and a high sodium diet draws water into the bloodstream, which can increase the volume of blood and subsequently your blood pressure. So it's like turning up the water supply to a garden hose. The pressure in the hose increases as more water is blasted through it. So as sodium increases, so does the fluid build up in your tissues and blood streams, and your blood pressure increases. Too much sodium in your system, as you know, that causes body to retain or hold on to water. So when your body hold on too much water, you can feel shortness of breath, puffiness, bloating, weight gain, and swelling. So why should I limit sodium? So you can improve all those symptoms like weight gain, puffiness, by eating less salt. Additionally, reducing sodium intake can also improve overall cardiovascular health by reducing blood pressure. It also helps in preventing fluid retention and reducing the symptoms of edema or puffiness, weight gain, particularly in individuals with pre-existing conditions such as heart failure or kidney disease. In addition to blood pressure, in addition to these reasons, blood pressure also generally increases as you get older. So limiting your sodium intake becomes even more important each year. So even if you take a pill for blood pressure or water pill or like diuretic to remove fluid, it is still important to have less salt in your diet. So what is the difference between salt and sodium? Mostly the word table salt and sodium are often used interchangeably, but they do not mean the same thing. Table salt, mostly known by its chemical name, sodium chloride. So salt is roughly 40% sodium and 60% chloride. When shopping for food, it's important to read both the front of the package and the nutrition facts panel, as the front of the package may use terms like no salt added or unsalted, while the nutrition facts panel lists the amount of sodium per serving. So sodium is present in most of the foods. However, it is especially concentrated in table salt, which is commonly added to many processed and restaurant foods. So almost 90% of the sodium we consume is in the form of salt. So how much sodium do I need? It seems like 9 out of 10 American consumes too much sodium. The average American eats more than 3,400 milligram of sodium a day. So even cutting back by 1,000 milligram a day can improve blood pressure and heart health. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligram a day. So 1 teaspoon of salt has about a day's supply of sodium for most people. And American Heart Association also recommends for people or who are sensitive to salt or has high blood pressure to reduce it further to 1,500 milligrams a day. So 1,500 milligrams a day, it's like 3/4 teaspoon a day. So mostly, some of the time it's challenged to keep sodium low. You can try dividing your sodium budgets into three meals and two snack. In case your sodium budget is around 1500 milligram, you can either do 3 meals of 500 milligrams sodium a day, or if you prefer to have some snacks in between meals, you can have 400 milligram per meal for 3 meals, plus two snacks of 150 milligram each, which is approximately 300 milligrams sodium from snacks. If you have a goal for 2300 milligram a day, you can do like a division very similar to 1500 milligram a day. And so where does most of the sodium come from? So more than 70% of the sodium we consume comes from packaged, prepared, and restaurant foods. The rest of the sodium in the diet occurs either naturally in food, which is about 15%, or is added when we are cooking food or like sitting down to eat, about 10%. So even if you never use the salt shaker, you are probably getting too much sodium. So, like as a food ingredient, sodium has multiple uses. It is used for curing meat. Curing is the addition to meat some combination of salt, sugar, nitrite, or nitrate for the purpose of preservation, flavor, and color. So, and it is also used for baking, thickening, retaining moisture, enhancing flavor, including the flavor of other ingredients, and it is also used as a preservative. Sodium has several names. The most common that we know is salt. Another is MSG, or monosodium glutamate. It's a flavor enhancer often added to restaurant foods, canned vegetables, soups, deli meats, and other foods. It's an important ingredient in the cuisine of China and Japan. Then baking soda or sodium bicarbonate, it acts as a chemical leavener, and that allows cakes, cookies, and other baked goods to rise. Then we have a sodium nitrite. It's the most common source of salt in our diet. It's in hot dogs, lunch meats, and so on. It is used to preserve fish and meat and control bacteria. So it has a legitimate use as well. Similarly, sodium benzoate, it's also used to prevent a spoilage from harmful bacteria, yeast, and mold, but it also helps to slow or prevent changes in color, flavor, pH, and texture. So these are some of the places where we can also find sodium, and we should be aware about it because they all are contributing to our total salt intake. So what foods should I limit? So as I said that more than 70% of the sodium American eat comes from packaged, prepared, and restaurant foods, not the salt shaker. And you should also watch for the six common foods that add the most sodium to the diet. The first one is breads and rolls. Some foods that you might eat throughout the day, such as bread, can add up a lot of sodium, even though each serving may not seem high in sodium. So it's important to be mindful of the sodium content of bread products and choose options that are lower in sodium, or look for low sodium or reduced sodium varieties. Additionally, opting for whole grain bread can also provide additional health benefit. Second is pizza. A slice of pepperoni pizza can contain almost a third of your daily recommended dietary sodium. To reduce the sodium content, consider choosing the thin crust, loading it up with lots of vegetables instead of high sodium toppings like cured meats or bacon, or try swapping the veggies to your next slice. Third one is sandwiches. Sandwiches and burgers from fast food restaurants can contain more than 100% of your daily suggested dietary sodium. So try making your own sandwich at home with fresh ingredients, or opt for half a sandwich and a side salad for a lighter meal. Another source of sodium is deli meats. They can be high in sodium. Try to limit your intake and opt for fresh, unprocessed meat, or choose low sodium options when possible. Another category is soup. Sodium content in soup can vary greatly. Even between different brands of the same variety can range from 49 to 830 milligrams, so more than a third of your daily recommended intake. So be sure to check the nutrition labels and opt for soup that are lower in sodium. Another one is burritos and tacos. So Mexican cuisine can be very high in sodium due to use of processed meat and other high sodium ingredients. So consider opting for vegetarian options or choosing tacos and burritos filled with fresh veggies and lean protein sources to reduce the sodium content. And also watch out hidden sources of sodium. It's present in mostly in high sodium dairy products like most cheese, cottage cheese, processed cheeses, spreads, and buttermilk. Be careful on processed foods such as canned or bottled vegetable juice, canned soup, canned beans, stew, chili, tomatoes, spaghetti or pizza sauce, baked beans, refried beans, processed chicken, etc. Um, Convenience food such as meals, packaged macaroni and cheese, rice stuffing, or noodle mixes like rice or noodle rani, ramen noodle, or cup noodles, instant oatmeals, and instant coca mix. Also be mindful on choosing snack foods or foods with visible salt crystals such as salted nuts, potato chips, Cheetos, nacho cheese flavored chips, tortilla chips, salted popcorn, crackers, and pretzel. And have to be careful on baked goods or prepared mixes such as biscuits, cornbread, muffins, pancakes, waffles. Um, should be careful also on condiments or seasonings such as salt, light salt, seasoned salt, onion salt, garlic salt, baking soda, baking powder, meat tenderizers, MSGs, or sauces like soy sauce, steak sauce, barbecue sauce, chili sauce, or bouillon cubes, and other salty items like olives, pickles, sauerkraut, prepared mustards, or commercially prepared salad dressing. So these all are hidden sources of sodium. So you have to be very careful while selecting these items. So surprisingly, some foods that don't taste salty can still be high in sodium. So which is why using taste alone is not an accurate way to judge a food's sodium content. For example, like wild foods that are high in sodium, like pickle and soy sauce, taste salty. There are also many foods like cereals and pastries that contain sodium but don't taste salty. Also, some foods that you may eat several times a day, such as breads, can add up a lot of sodium over the course of a day, even though an individual serving may not be high in sodium. So because most of the sodium you eat is in your food before you buy it, it can be hard to limit how much you are getting. But remember, the sodium content varies significantly between similar type of foods. So use the nutrition facts label to compare the products. So another way to reduce the sodium intakes is adding more flavor. One of the most common thing you can do while cooking is to reduce the amount of salt you use, but you can go beyond salt reduction and incorporate things that brings more flavor to your food. Include citrus fruits like lemon, limes that can add a bright taste to any dish. You can add rosemary and thyme that can add unique flavor to marinades, chicken dishes. Can have paprika. It's very versatile and it can be used with meat, poultry, fish, and vegetables. Garlic and onion can add a punch of flavor to any savory dish. Can have basil or sweet peppery basil in pesto soup, sandwiches. Cumin can add aromatic zest to Mexican and Middle Eastern dishes. Can have pepper, red pepper flakes, cayenne pepper that can add a spice to your meals without adding sodium. Hot sauces contain sodium, but if you use just a drop or two, it will not add up too much. So dishes without salt won't be bland when you add spices to them. So there are many seasoning available. like Mrs. Dash, low sodium widget, salt-free spike, lemon pepper, salt-free Italian seasoning. So, I mean, there are plenty of options available in the market without added salt. Just don't forget to check the ingredient list to be sure that salt is not present. And also allow your taste buds to adjust. Like any change, it can take time for your taste buds to adapt to less salt. Foods lower in sodium may taste differently at first, but over time, it's possible to acquire a taste for foods with less salt. So this is a very common question. Many people ask that they are using another kind of salt, so they may not be getting enough sodium in their diet. Um, and they think that these some like sea salt, kosher salt, rock salts are better option. So the most common salt in our diet is regular table salt. Table salt is refined rock salt, and if iodine is added, it is iodized salt. Iodine, according to studies, helps prevent thyroid problems and even mental retardation and low IQ issues. Sea salt, as it names, it is made by evaporating seawater. So like table salt, it is mostly just sodium chloride. However, sea salt is often coarse or chunkier than table salt as it's less ground. So a teaspoon of it will contain more air between the chunks and less salt. So when we compared between the sea salt and a regular salt, one level of teaspoon of table salt is around 6 grams or 2,300 milligram of sodium, and 1 teaspoon of sea salt is around 5 grams or 1,960 milligram of sodium. So it depends, and in case if you add more sea salt, so you will get around the similar amount of sodium as you get from the table salt. And depending on its source and how it was processed, it usually contains various trace minerals like potassium, iron, and zinc. Then another salt is kosher salt, is also mostly sodium. The grains of kosher salt are not as fine as that of refined salt, but they are not as large as rock salt either. So salt contains only trace amounts of minerals. So as a result, choosing one type of salt over another is unlikely to significantly affect your health. At the end of the day, salt is salt. Other than salt substitute, perhaps there is no scientific evidence to suggest that any type of salt is better or healthier than any other. Your choice will depend on your budget, taste preference, and health needs. And keep in mind that iodine is somewhat elusive in most people's diet unless you are eating seafood regularly. So choosing an iodized salt is a wise choice. And also because sodium is abundant in the average American diet, the best option is to swap your salt shaker for spices, herbs, and other seasoning. So you will not only reap the health benefits of reduced sodium diet, but you will also enjoy a more unique flavor profile with your meals. So another common question, how can I cook with less salt and more flavor? So first, so there are many options. Avoid table salt to foods. Consider using seasoning herbs or spices such as Mrs. Dash, salt-free magic, cumin, basic citrus fruit kind of thing. When cooking at home, experiment with new recipes that use fresh ingredients and flavorful spices, and that can enhance the taste of your food without relying on salt. You can choose more fresh, whole food instead of processed food. You can choose whole grains such as brown rice, whole wheat bread instead of refined grains like white rice, white bean, which are often higher in sodium. Limit processed food such as frozen dinner, snack foods, which are often high in sodium. Choose fresh poultry, fish, or lean meat rather than canned, smoked, or processed type. Also choose low sodium version of sodium. Choose low sodium version of foods whenever possible. Look for low sodium or no salt added option when shopping. Also read nutrition labels and compare sodium content to choose the option with lower sodium. Drink plenty of water too to help flush out excess sodium from your body. You can also rinse canned vegetable and beans to reduce the sodium intake as well. So what about eating out? So when dining out, you can make healthier choices as well. It's always helpful to plan ahead and look at the menu or nutrition information beforehand, and asking for modifications such as olive oil and vinegar instead of dressing, or asking for no added salt can be a great way to make healthier choices. Additionally, portion control and taking home leftovers can also help manage the amount of sodium content. Here you can see the smart swaps to lower salt, like from instead of ham, use chicken, instead of chips, use unsalted nuts, instead of soy sauce, can have more of lemon juice, or crackers, instead of crackers, can have veggie sticks. And at the last, yes, portion control, you can always take leftover and can reduce the portion size. So there are many nutrition label claims. So you can also check for nutrition claims on food and beverage packages to quickly identify those that may contain less sodium. So here it is a guide to common claims and what they mean. Sodium-free, salt-free, no sodium, which means it contains less than 5 milligram of sodium per serving. And it should be your first choice if you see some product which mention sodium-free or salt-free. Very low sodium is 35 milligrams of sodium or less per serving. Low sodium is 140 milligram of sodium or less per serving. So you can have like all first three choices. You can have sodium-free, you can have very low sodium, and you can have a low sodium, which is less than 140 milligram of sodium. Another nutrient claims are reduced sodium or less sodium, at least 25% less sodium per serving than the reference food product. However, this could be too much sodium for you, so look at the label, because we don't know what product they are referring or how they are reducing 25% from which product. So these are just kind of claim. Light in sodium, at least 50% less sodium per serving than the reference food product. Again, from the reference food product. So this could still be a lot of sodium for you. So read the label. Unsalted, no salt added, which means no sodium has been added to the product, but the product could still contain natural sodium. So be sure to check the label. Even if it says healthy or natural, that means no nutritional value. So don't be fooled into thinking that food labeled this way must be good for you. So I'll show you some of the examples. So this is one of the example of reduced sodium, which means at least 25% less sodium per serving than the reference product. And you can see 1 tablespoon contains around 575 milligram of sodium. If your daily goal is 1500 milligram of sodium, then 575 milligram is like you are meeting 1/3 of your daily sodium recommendation by taking 1 tablespoon of this less sodium soy sauce. Another example, when we are checking the label, so you can see what a little label reading can help. Regular chicken with noodle soup contains sodium like 37% or 890 milligrams, and low sodium version of same chicken noodle soup contains 140 milligrams. So if it's 140 milligram or less, then it's good. It can fit into your heart health diet. So let's just go over a little bit on label reading. So look at this label and use the nutrition fact label as your tool to make informed decision. It's a quick, if you will see, I can just quickly brief like what you should be looking into it. So if a food contains 140 milligram or less of sodium, then it's low in sodium, and that can fit perfectly into a heart healthy diet. But if food with more than 300 milligram of sodium per serving may not fit into reduced sodium plan, and when buying prepared meals, look for those with less than 500 to 600 milligrams of sodium per meal. And also do remember your sodium budget and how you can divide your sodium budget into 3 meals and 2 snacks. Here, if you look into this label, the sodium is 430 milligram, which is 19%. And also, first thing that you should look is check the serving size. So if you eat more than one serving, you'll get more sodium than the amount listed. So here it is 1.5 cup is 430 milligram of sodium. If you eat 2 cup, it would be more sodium. And I want to teach you the percentage daily value. That this could be very handy. You don't have to remember all the numbers, but this would be very helpful in deciding any kind of product. So here, the percentage daily value. So this is in the box. So the term daily value is used to describe the amount of certain nutrient that most people need each day. So know your daily value. So the daily value, it's like a reference amount of nutrient to consume or not to exceed each day. So the daily value for sodium is less than 2,300 milligrams per day for most individual, and people who are at risk for heart disease, the ideal limit is around 1,500 milligram a day. So use percentage daily value as a tool, which is like 5 to 20 rule. So 5% or less daily value is considered as low in that nutrient, and 20% daily value or more is considered high. If we look for saturated fat, the 23% is considered as high because it's above 20. The sodium is 37%, so it's high because it is above 20. The added sugar is 0%, below 5, it's low. Vitamin D, 0, it's low. And calcium, 25%, which is again above 20%. So that means it's high in that nutrient. So this is a very good way to look at your sodium, is to use the percentage daily value. And as you can see on the right side, it tells all the percentage value. So when you eat, the serving indicated that you are getting that percentage of your whole day requirement of that nutrient, not that 37% of the product is sodium or salt. It's that when you eat this 1 cup serving size, you are getting 37% of whole day salt needs. That sounds like quite a lot. So the percentage daily value can help guide you. We can use a rough guide to help us thinking that 5% or less is considered low. And in nutrients like our saturated fat, sodium, we should like to see those lower percentage. And 15 to 20% or more, we can consider to be starting to be quite high. So if your sodium is now over 20%, like this example here, which is like 37% sodium, perhaps you can compare other products to see if there is one that lower in sodium, or look to find another alternatives to whatever the item is you're looking for. So this is another example. You can always, the nutrient to get less of is saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, sodium, added sugar. You should always check key nutrients and understand what you are looking for. Not all fats are bad, like monosaturated fats are good, and total sugar can include both natural and added sugar. So limit the amount of added sugar, saturated fat, sodium you eat, and avoid trans fat. And when choosing among different brands or similar product, compare labels and choose foods with less of these nutrients whenever possible. For example, if you are looking for salad dressing or pasta sauce with less salt and added sugar, you can compare 2 different brands and choose the product with the lower percentage daily value for sodium and added sugar. So the goal is don't eat more than 100% of these recommended amount of sodium, trans fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, or added sugar per day. Choose foods, those are lower in these nutrient. nutrients. So nutrients to get more of is fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, potassium. So you can choose foods with higher percentage daily value of these ones. Like fiber is above 10%, which means it's a good source. It's also a good source of added sugar, like 20% can have, like, it's a very good source of iron, it's 45%, and it's not so good source of potassium because it is like 5 to 6%. So you can use percentage daily value to decide which nutrient you should get less of and which nutrient you should get more of. And also check the ingredient list for salt. The ingredient list will show you every ingredient in the product. So the higher an ingredient appears on the list, the larger the percentage of that ingredient in the food. So watch for high sodium ingredients such as MSG, monosodium glutamate, sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, sodium phosphate, or anything pickled, brine, cured, or smoked. If any of the following items appear at the top of the list, you can expect the product will be high in sodium. So these are some of the slides which can show you how like choosing right kind of meals can make a difference in sodium intake. So as we discussed earlier also, that each day the average American eats nearly 3,400 to 4,000 milligram of sodium for the day. That is more than 2 times the amount recommended by the American Heart Association. So let's see how making a healthful choice can make difference. So at the left side, it's like a breakfast, which is like sausage and cheese omelet with hash brown and orange juice, 697 milligram. And on the other side, the right side is breakfast is egg and veggie breakfast sandwich on a whole grain English muffin, and total sodium is 547. So for the breakfast, it's always good to replace some meats, cheese, and side dishes with flavorful fruits and veggies. The morning snack, honey bun, which is 880 milligram, sorry, honey bun, which is 280 milligram, versus banana, which is 1 milligram. So try to have your snacks or satisfy your sweet tooth with delicious piece of fruits. You can choose any colorful fruit. Then the lunch option, you can see on left side, the turkey sandwich on white bread with cheese and side salad and a pickle. Total sodium is 1,532 milligram, like whole day sodium recommendation. Versus turkey sandwich on whole grain bread with lettuce and tomato slices with a side salad, cucumber slices. Total sodium is 650 milligram. It's just, I mean, 1/3 of what we are getting into a high sodium diet. So it's 1,532 versus 650 milligram of sodium. You can cut down more than half of the sodium by choosing the right kind of meal. So what you can do to reduce your sodium is to use veggies to add flavor instead of salty condiments, sauces, sides, or pickles. Always compare labels on salad dressings. Choose the option with less sodium, and when dining out, ask for your meal to be prepared without extra salt. Afternoon snack, if you can see, potato chips, 140 milligram versus unsalted almonds, which is like only 1 milligram of sodium. So most often choose unsalted nuts and also compare the items with lesser amount of sodium. Here, if you can see the dinner is chicken with boxed macaroni and cheese and frozen veggie, the most common convenience American dinner, which contains around total sodium 1,207 milligram versus chicken with homemade veggie, macaroni and cheese and fresh veggies. Total sodium is 370 milligram. I mean, it's almost 1/3 of sodium in making, if you prepare your food at home, or because you have more control over the sodium in food. You can also replace salt in recipes with herbs, spices, citrus, or vinegar, and always look the same. I mean, foods that look the same way may contain different amount of salt. So it's very important that you compare labels and choose the one which are lower in sodium. And so the grand total between the two is 3,864 milligram sodium for option 1 and 1,569 milligram of sodium for option 2. So the breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack, they all add up to approximately 4,000 milligram of sodium for a day in option 1. So this is more than 2 times the amount recommended by the American Heart Association for ideal heart health. And too much sodium, as you know, can be risky for your heart health. And meals with lower sodium can be just as delicious and can keep your sodium in check. So get in the habit of counting or monitoring or adding up the salt in your diet wherever you are taking, just monitoring it and subtracting salt where you can. This will help you get closer and closer to your goal. If one meal has more sodium, then half of your if one meal has more sodium than half of your daily goal, look for ways to reduce it. Think about what you have already eaten and what else you plan to eat. If one meal is high in sodium, your other meal that day can be lower so that you will still meet your goal. So yeah. So these So this is all. Thank you. Thank you for listening this session. And if you have any questions, concern, do not hesitate to reach me out via email. I'll be happy to answer if you have any questions or concern. Thank you.